projects that are in here, some of which I've never heard of before, some of which I was aware of but thought they were funded. I'd like to have some time to read this over. All this, just a little light reading here. And I'm hoping that maybe we can come back at a future time before the deadline, which is July whatever, that you want to have your hearing set. And that's not our job tonight. We're not setting the hearing. It's not in the agenda. But I'm hoping that we can come back, maybe do a workshop. That would be up to you, Mr. Mayor. And have time after reviewing all this so we can discuss it and get more feedback from you about what's going on, what the priorities are, what happened in the past to where we were going to fund something with cash we had and now all of a sudden it's too expensive. You've given us a good explanation of that so far, but I think there's a lot of detail in here that I would like to get more information on. And tonight, how long do you want the meeting to go? So that would be my preference.
Amy.
I have a question on scenario 1, scenario 2, in particular scenario 2, and thank you for outlining the risk associated with the $16 million. Is it safe to assume, reading through these risks, for instance, new meters, hydrants, lines, the cost is $400,000 of that $16 million, but what the risk is less maintenance now? I'm looking at line 2 there, the first, bigger repairs later, that dollar mark, the $400,000 could even be larger because of the cost of the repairs.
Yes.
Okay. So this is a conservative, on some of these lines, it's a conservative number.
Correct. So with what was removed from the 16 million on those project lists was our existing budget out of those years. So if we go with certain rates, we're going to have to cut certain amounts of projects and dollar values. I went through everything over the next 5 years and did the best I could to come as close to that dollar value as I could and make sure I couldn't undercost. There is a year in there where I couldn't actually meet that with projects that we have planned with maintenance, but we have a certain dollar value where we put back into the system every year. So we have about $700,000 to $800,000 that we put back in our system to replace mains, services, hydrants on an annual basis in the system, and that gradually goes up each year. Unfortunately, each year that goes up, our percentage of hydrants and services is drastically decreasing because of the cost. Just meter boxes that we've gone in the last 5 years start out $300, $400 a set. They're almost up to $1,000 a set now. So we're looking at different options that are out there that are going to be compatible and work with our system. So we're doing the best we can to keep material costs down and also keep up with maintenance and replacements without removing something completely, and make sure that we don't have failures and water outages throughout the city.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Questions? Christie?
Mr. Mayor, I too would like to see a short workshop so we could have time to really look at this and maybe ask more meaningful questions. It's very difficult, just kind of on the fly, to do this. And a rate increase may very well be necessary because of future infrastructure needs. But it does matter to the public. They want to have time to understand it, and so do we. And so I think a future workshop later in June might help.
So, thoughts on that, you guys? We've been doing this for 20, 30 years. I thought this was kind of a normal thing. I know you guys are projecting it out there, and I get that they don't want to raise the rates, but thoughts?
Mr. Mayor, yeah, well, I don't want to raise any rates, but I want to make sure that if I'm going to raise rates, that the reason for raising the rates is justifiable to the ratepayer, who we have to answer to. And I'm looking at this list on the capital plan that's up on the screen right now, and a lot of the risk items, to me, are kind of iffy. I see the word could up there 4 times. And I see things that are like, well, this could happen. You could be driving to the doctor and get a flat tire. It's that kind of stuff. It's not something, which again, it would be in this plan. So this was done by engineers who looked at the system and said, here's what you need. So that's why I would like more time to look at the plan to see, water pressure issues could continue, but I want to know the specifics on water pressure issues. Could cause stormwater flooding. Yeah, this is more, I need more detail on this because that, to me, is not solid enough to justify a huge 16 million, and I know that's not even the full total we're asking for, but just, I want to have that more information. I want to take time to ask you those questions after I've read this, so that I can make sure that if I'm going to the public and saying, yeah, we're slamming you with a rate increase, that here's why it's needed as opposed to it's wanted.
Yep, and that's completely understandable. A lot of those items up there, you don't have so much room to put it, otherwise it gets smaller and we get in trouble. So, yes, those are all detailed in the plan. Those are just a shortened version of it. And at any point in time, I can go over that in detail with you. It is in that wonderful, entertaining 288-page document in front of you. And some of it's very hard to read, but it's a good document. There's a lot of information in there.
Good, thank you.
Kiki?
So I kind of get a sense here in my gut that when I'm still wrestling with this 12,000 gallons a month, that I get that increasing the rates is a good signal to say stop using so much water. However, there's some people who maybe aren't on a fixed income that have discretionary funds, and that doesn't really affect them. So I kind of get a sense that we're punishing people who aren't breaking the rules, aren't overusing water increase. So I'd really like to see if we can put anything into this study that says here's been some effective tools that have been deterrents besides increasing rates to get people to bring that gallon usage down for these maximum peak summer months, and how that really affects the long-term projections. So I wouldn't mind a workshop if I don't know if that's an impossible task to come up with, but I'm sure that it's been asked before, and I would sure like to look at that through that lens and
So just to sit down with, just us to talk, and I don't think that will hurt you any, will it?
No, not at all. And some of the questions that you're asking, specifically, Councilmember Miller, going into detail on it does take a bit more time, and I could elaborate that a lot more, but like Councilmember Gookin mentioned, it just depends on how long you want to be here.
Amy?
But I'm more than willing to share that information at a later date at a workshop or tonight. Some of the information we have here, some of them might have to provide to you.
I think it'd be good to have it all at once.
I do too.
So a workshop would be good.
All right, but let me just, so I understand this, so scenario 2 is going to raise my water rate $2 a month, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes, on a base user, you are correct.
Okay.
I don't know if
That
you're a
sounds
base
like a
user
good
or
deal
not.
to me, but,
It's a good deal.
It's a good deal.
paid more than that for butter last month and an egg. Don't talk about egg costs, okay?
Will we be delivering eggs?
What's that?
No, with the water.
Water.
All right. So how about give me a motion that will direct us to do that?
Well, I don't, do
We're
we
going to
need a
save
motion?
$2.04.
No, I don't know if we need a motion, just collective wisdom to
We
set up
need
a
a motion to
workshop.
table for now?
Yeah, why don't we do that? That'll look good on the notes, right? Can you get that okay?
I make a motion that we table this until a time determined by Water Administrator for a workshop to bring forward to council.
Second that.
Thanks. Been moved and second. Discussion? Joe, can you give me a roll call on that?
Yes.
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 Aye.
Yes?
Thank you, guys. Thanks,
Thank you.
Kyle. Moving on, Randy, Resolution 25029, approval of memorandum of understanding for a partnership to fund a special assistant United States attorney for the North Idaho to help combat drug trafficking. They want to help us
Yeah.
get the bad guys?
Well, I'm very happy to come before you tonight asking for the smallest amount of money that you've heard so far this evening. Before you tonight is a memorandum of understanding for the North Idaho SAUSA initiative. SAUSA stands for Special Assistant U.S. Attorney. They work under the U.S. Attorney for the state in which they work. A SAUSA works with certain type of cases, whether it's drug trafficking, gangs, immigration, white-collar crimes. Because of their specialization, they enhance the ability of the U.S. Attorney's Office to prosecute cases by ensuring the efficient administration of justice. Until recently, there are two SALSA initiatives in Idaho, one in the Treasure Valley, the Ada Canyon Counties area, which focuses on gangs. The other one is in the Pocatello area, focusing on drug trafficking. The North Idaho SALSA initiative would be the third. As a snapshot for their effectiveness, the Eastern Idaho SALSA began in 2016. As of the end of 2023, about 200 drug traffickers had been prosecuted, receiving almost 750 years in federal prison time, with an estimated cost savings to the local, state and local jurisdictions of about $2.5 million. Under the North Idaho SALSA initiative, the U.S. Attorney's Office, instead of the County Prosecutor's Office, will try those trafficking offenses. Taking traffickers out of the circulation, logically will limit the opioids that reach our streets. As Justin Whatcott, Assistant U.S. Attorney for Idaho, recently said, this program provides a significant benefit to North Idaho, taking people out of the state who come to our state to do harm. And as the U.S. Attorney for Idaho, Joshua Hurwitz, said, this is a problem that is in our communities, but it's not our problem alone. Not a month ago, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Washington created a SALSA position dedicated to prosecuting violent crimes, firearms trafficking, gangs, drugs, and human trafficking in Eastern Washington. So SALSA programs are all over the place and have been very effective. Kootenai County is in the Oregon-Idaho High-Intensity Drug Trafficking Area, HIDTA. The HIDTA program was created in 1988 and exists in all 50 states. It works in conjunction with more than 1,500 dedicated DEA special agents who are working in those programs. The North Idaho SALSA initiative has an annual cost of $140,000. Of that amount, the governor's office has already committed $75,000 per year, and the Oregon-Idaho HIDTA has committed $50,000. The remaining $15,000 will be shared by participating local governments. The 13 local governments that have expressed interest as this program began to be developed in June of 2023 include many along the I-90 corridor, as well as Nez Perce County and Latah counties and the city of Lewiston. Coeur d'Alene was invited to the initial meeting in June of 2023, and its delegation was headed by Mayor Hammond. Coeur d'Alene's share of that $15,000 is not going to exceed $3,000 per year. It's also a one-year commitment. If council decides this program is not working, not doing what it's supposed to do, Coeur d'Alene would be more than able to withdraw from participation in the program after the first year or in a year subsequently. The former chief prosecutor for the city of Coeur d'Alene, Wes Somerton, has said that the SALSA program is a natural extension of the work our police department has done in combating the fentanyl epidemic with the creation of the drug team. It's only one part of a united effort to reduce illegal drugs in our community. Our police department has been part of the discussions about SALSA as well. Ben Allen is the Shoshone County prosecutor and one of the driving forces behind the North Idaho SALSA initiative. He's here. He's more than willing to answer any questions you have that I cannot. Shoshone County has agreed to house the SALSA. So all the city of Coeur d'Alene is providing is $3,000, and we, being the legal department, has put that small amount in our proposed budget for the next year, which is an important point in that the SALSA position is going to start July 1, but the governor's office is going to pick up all of the local participation money until the budgetary year starts in October 1. So the governor's office realizes that we small cities and counties have already got our budgets in place, and we need to budget those in the next cycle. So the city's participation will not begin until our next budget year, should you approve that. So I will stand for questions, and as I noted, Ben Allen can also answer questions. And I think the chief is still here if you have questions of the police department.
Any questions, council? Christie?
Thank you, Randy. You know, when I first read this, I read it wrong. I thought our portion was 15,000.
Oh, no.
Which was way too much. A lot of our prosecution of those type of large crimes are done already by the U.S. Attorney's Office. But the 3,000 is such a small amount, I don't think we should put our finger in the eye of the governor who's trying to assist us with major drug crimes. My question is, are there any funding left? Is there any funding left at all in the opioid settlement funds?
Because I'm a very
Stand-up kind of guy.
conscientious.
But there's,
It seems like a legal expense. I've discussed this with Troy and Katie in the budget process, and that seemed logical, but I'm certainly willing to let some other department handle it. Maybe Bill Greenwood would like to do that. I don't know. He's got a lot of green grass and all of that. But I don't know if there's any other source of budgetary money for that $3,000.
Okay.
We can explore that if council would like.
Thank you. So Randy, how do we judge whether this is being successful?
Well, you can look at the number of prosecutions, you can look at what, I think there are statistics on drug arrests and the amount of fentanyl and other opioids that are confiscated from our streets. I think those are crime statistics that we look at every day, and I think we may be able to see that and the number of prosecutions specifically brought by that SAUSA in the District of Idaho.
follow-up, Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
Can we be certain that we will get that information? Do you know if there's going to be a end-of-the-year report? Not that $3,000 breaks the bank, but it is good for us to know, all of these municipalities to know, what kind of drug trends are coming through our city.
Yes, and I think we should know that, and we should be able to obtain that. I don't know if Ben knows specifically if that's been discussed.
You can come up here, Ben.
Come on up, Ben.
Thanks, Randy, and thank you, Mayor and Council, for entertaining this. I can't speak to it. I had the pleasure of being at the driving forefront of this, and as such, I also had the opportunity to draft both the MOU between the local partners and the MOU between the host agency and Department of Justice, i.e. the U.S. Attorney's Office. There will be quarterly reports that are provided by the acting SAUSA. So the employee themselves who is going to fill this role is going to be tasked with the responsibility of compiling all of the data and the statistics related to their cases and providing a quarterly report. The local partners will be invited to have a local representative sit in on a report meeting where we contemplate, it will likely be some sort of a video conference that allows the local prosecutor, for instance, of each one of the local partners to sit in to ask the handling federal prosecutor, the SAUSA, any questions they have related to their caseload. And then it's also contemplated that at the end of each annual year, we'll have an opportunity to review the statistics of that SAUSA as it compares to SAUSAs elsewhere. As Randy correctly noted, there are at least 2 other jurisdictions within the state that have SAUSAs, and currently both of them are operating under a structure of reporting back to the local partners that are involved in the SAUSA.
Thank you.
I have a couple of different perspectives on it. So our police are still going to make the arrests. Is that correct?
Correct, Mayor.
And the sheriffs will still make the arrests. The difference now is the bad guys don't go to our courthouse, they go to Shoshone? Is that?
Not quite. So I would say the largest cost incentive for our local constituents in bringing a SALSA into your jurisdiction is that the cost of housing the inmate during the course of prosecution, which would normally be borne by your local taxpayers, and then the cost of incarceration post-sentencing, so i.e. prison sentence, is going to be borne by the federal taxpayers rather than the local taxpayers. And that's really where we start to see these really large numbers add up. When we're looking at drug trafficking cases that are resulting in 10, 15, 30-year prison sentences for some of these major crimes that the federal prosecutors handle, that's a potential case that could come off of the shoulders of our local taxpayer base funding that incarceration and get shifted onto the shoulders of federal taxpayers, of which we acknowledge were some, but we're spreading it out amongst the other 50 states. And so we're able to take that cost of incarceration and remove it. The second piece, which doesn't necessarily have an immediate monetary tie, is really, it's rooted in the ideological constructs of breaking up criminal partnerships. That is, when you have individuals that are involved in the same criminogenic behaviors in the same jurisdiction, they typically have the same local ties. When those individuals get prosecuted at the local level, they're going to be housed in the same county jails with each other, so their ability to continue criminal operations from one cell block to the next is pretty easily accessible for them. Once they get shifted down to the state penitentiary, once again, their criminal network still hasn't been disbanded. When we look at what federal incarceration does, it's now going to take that inmate, and that inmate's going to spend the next however many years sitting in a prison setting in Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, somewhere where we're now breaking those ties from their local criminal. And statistics and data compiled by DOJ have demonstrated that that aids greatly in essentially restructuring and causing disruption in their ability to actually traffic drugs through an area.
So does it impact, as I understand, it's all felony stuff, and felony, we don't deal with felony in the city, it goes to the county?
So on the prosecution side, Mayor, you're correct. I would say that, if you're looking at the major benefit of this, it's probably not going to be a benefit to Randy's office directly in that regard. What we're looking at for the benefit is identifying the after effects post-sentencing, and that's where we're really going to see the largest benefit. As it pertains to the investigation, if it's your city police department that's responsible for conducting the traffic stop that, unveils the 10,000 fentanyl pill trafficking ring that's, coming through your city, that police department's still responsible for the investigation. The one caveat I would throw out there, and I think this is an added benefit to a SALSA, is cases have a much higher likelihood of getting resolved in the federal court system because of mandatory minimum sentences. So if you look at the likelihood that that officer that's responsible for the investigation is going to have to go through contested court hearings, motions to suppress, jury trials, etc., with that case sitting in the federal system, I would argue that there's a much lower likelihood that they're going to be on the hook for additional court time.
In addition, I think as you make it more difficult for traffickers to come through this area, you're going to see a reduction in the amount of drugs. That's just logical. And that does reduce the burden on the smaller cases, the misdemeanors that the city prosecutor handles, and also that the police have to investigate. So it's a long-term goal of reducing the amount of drugs going through this area, which will reduce the amount of crime.
Thank you.
One more, but I think Amy had, I had one more, if I could.
You guys are messing with me.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So will the detective that is assigned the case ultimately, will they have direct access to the federal prosecutor for questions about evidence or a search warrant in progress, any of that? Will they have that ability?
So those processes and procedures will be treated the same way that they currently are when a federal prosecutor takes a case. We currently have 3 full-time federal prosecutors housed in the Coeur d'Alene branch, so none of that's going to change. What the SALSA is going to do is it's going to take an additional federal prosecutor, put it in that office, and that prosecutor is just going to receive a caseload assignment related to drug trafficking and is only going to be handling cases that come out of the jurisdiction of our local partners, i.e., they're not going to be tasked with grabbing a case from another jurisdiction and prosecuting it. So we're able to concentrate our efforts, which means that there's a higher likelihood that if there's a drug trafficking case that originates from your jurisdiction, that it's going to meet the minimum thresholds for them to be able to take that case and shift it onto their federal docket.
Okay, I think I get it. It's another body. It doesn't necessarily mean they're on call. They're going to take a detective's call in the middle of the night. It's- Okay, thank you.
Amy?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution number 25-029, approving of a memorandum of understanding for a partnership to fund a new Special Assistant United States Attorney for North Idaho to help combat drug trafficking.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Other comments, questions? Hearing none. Joe?
Wood,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Buchan.
Yes. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.
Oh my gosh, they've been working.
You know, it's
on this
also
all
good
set.
that we're raising our water revenue.